And I'm delighted to introduce Aref Fakhry, who is from the World Maritime University and I think an expert in this field. So Aref, could I say a good speech of about 20, 25 minutes?
I should hope so.
Excellent.
I'll do my best. Thank you very much. Professors, I will skip the titles and thank Ridian, thank Igor, thank Shoshana for the invitation. And also very pleased to be back in this beautiful city, even though the weather may not be as auspiciously hot, but that's nice. And to be speaking to you about yes, a topic that is quite dear to my heart, because I spent many years in Southampton working on like the depths and mysteries of piracy. So today we are facing a new phenomenon, which is a mass. And I have the difficult task of trying to extrapolate really on how piracy could work out with this new phenomenon. So I have thus just a few talking points that I'd like to take you through. I'll start by saying that piracy is a very old crime. So contrasting with the novelty of mass somehow, it's also a very serious crime, in the sense that pirates have been traditionally considered as the enemies of mankind, or humankind, to be more respectful. And we have that obviously evidence somehow in UNCLOS, which provides universal jurisdiction regarding the crime of piracy. The IMO's suppression of unlawful acts against the safety of navigation treaties and protocols extended that somehow, even though so SUA actually kind of created an additional fence against piracy, even though it doesn't actually speak of piracy, but generically it covers a lot of the instances of piracy. And we also have the general maritime law. In many countries, piracy is to be founded on very old ancient maritime codes or maritime rules. So I think that sets somehow the background. There is the second point that I want to make, and that is that mass can be used to commit the crime of piracy. There's already a paper that actually looks at mass being the victims of piratical acts, but I kind of wanted to start with the reverse situation. I think what we are seeing today is a lot of warfare around us, and drones are one of the tenets of my analysis or discussion. And a bit like Henrik, I don't really have definite answers to a lot of the points. Drones could be seen as an analogy to a mass in relation to understanding, the understanding of this difficult question of how piracy can fit in. So yeah, drones are causing or wreaking havoc in terms of damage to life and limb, as well as property. You see that in the news, in the ongoing conflicts around us. So I don't think that in any reasonable sense, mass should not be seen as vectors for committing crimes. And when one talks of crimes at sea, obviously piracy comes to the forefront, because that is the quintessential maritime crime. And as I said, there is already a paper by a Japanese Navy officer who's digressed on the mass being victims of pirates. So these are just these are obviously things that may seem to us far-fetched, but they're not really so, because experts are already looking at them. And I think that when I was tasked to come up with something on this, it was very kind of there was a lot of foresight with with Zsuzsanna and Igor, who asked me, along with a gentleman from the Navy who pulled out, unfortunately, to kind of deliberate on this matter. We have armed robbery in, so my third point is armed robbery in internal and territorial waters. This is, I think we have to pay respect to the vocabulary, the language that we have in law, whether we agree with the fact that piracy ends at the limit of the territorial sea or is only applicable on the high seas. I think the general view is that piracy is only applicable on the high seas. So we have to also deal with the other sort of the parallel to the crime of piracy, which is what we call armed robbery against ships, which is usually applicable at in close range of the shore, that is the territorial sea or internal waters. That is not a universally adopted vision, of course, of the issue of piracy, but we have to deal with that. And I think that as concerns our subject of mass, I mean, it does matter, but because we may have different rules or different terminologies that we have to apply to the eventualities, depending on where they apply. So I think the next point is that I want to make is that the commission of the crime of piracy against pure machines devoid of crews does not pose a problem as such, because, I mean, if we go by the definition of Article 101 of UNCLOS, which talks about illegal acts of violence or depredation from one ship against another, the targets may be either persons on board the other vessels, or just property on board the other vessel. So the fact that we have a vessel that is navigating without a crew does not in itself pose a problem in terms of the application of the crime of piracy, so to speak. So that's one element. And the use of mass, as I was saying earlier, I think what I mentioned earlier, this is a bit of an overlap. The fact is that with warfare, we see nowadays all these drones, and there are actually ship drones already in existence. If you look at the Ukrainian side of the technology, there are actually drone boats in existence, and these may be very fearsome and lethal machines. And you can see representations of them on the BBC, for instance, which dedicated a web page to that. What this does, it kind of confuses this the long-held exclusion or distinction between government ships and private ships, because we see today a lot of drones or vessels actually carrying devices, sensors that may be of use to governments, like when you think about marine research. So I think it's becoming a bit difficult to maintain these clear-cut distinctions between government ships and private ships. because, you know, we have a long-standing immunity of government ships in much of maritime law. Government ships tend to be immune from the regulations regarding commercial activities. But when you see that a commercially driven or operated mast may in the future be carrying devices or sensors that are of interest or are owned by government departments or governments, that nuance kind of may become a bit a breach in a way. Another point that I'd like to broach is how to arrest pirates if there are none on board. So you have a mast that as we said, you know, it's caused damage to another ship, or it's caused even bodily harm, and you want to, or a governmental authority is intent on enforcing the crime of piracy, but there are no. If the vessel is crewless, is that again a figment of a wild imagination? I don't know. But how do we arrest pirates if there are none on board? Does the crime, in other words, lose any of its relevance? When there are no crews, is there any human right to be due to? You know, we've had cases recently over the last 20 years or so of piracy springing up, and human rights have become actually an equation for analyzing and or guiding the law enforcement conduct, so authorities' conduct. So when again a machine or a mast has no people on board, do you owe any human rights to the machine? Or, of course, maybe there are requirements of due process owed to machines again. The question is, if those that are operating the drones or the masts are located elsewhere, how can you bring them under the grip of piracy law? In terms of arrest, the question I was asking earlier. The other question is, how do we secure masts from pirate attacks? You know that in high-risk areas, there's been a lot of work done by industry and governments to raise the level of preparedness and somehow decrease the vulnerability of vessels by all sorts of gadgets, even to the point of carrying security armed guards or armed security guards on board. But if we are talking of mass, so very reduced crews, almost no crews, how do we deal with that aspect of making those ships seaworthy in a way, seaworthy for journeys across these high-risk areas of piracy and armed robbery, which brings us back to what the Mass Code, the draft Mass Code says. It does dedicate a chapter on security, a very short, which doesn't, I think, add much, although I think it actually, I'll come back to that at the end. It kind of raises new questions. But it would be expected, I think, from the Mass Code to address the issue of how you prevent these vessels from being insecure, because that's what IMO conventions like SOLAS in terms of its ISPS code does. The ISPS code is basically the place to look for rules regarding how to enhance the security of vessels and port facilities. We have a fundamental question in SOLAS in more than one place, and that is, when faced with a dilemma between maritime safety and maritime security, the master should always favor maritime safety. So how are we going and trust machines to make that judgment? if there is no person on board to make such a decision, and you know, these decisions are usually to be made in instantly, you know, I guess impulsively, kind of, when no previous calculation is doable. So that's a difficult question. Perhaps it should be also looked at. And so how can a MAS repel pirate attacks? Again, going back to the question I was raising earlier with armed security guards. The European Union, for instance, has over the years, you know, spent thousands, if not millions of euros on how to secure vessels by all sorts of gadgets like barbed wire, elements that could be thrown at pirates, maneuvers that can be resorted to. Well, all of that becomes a bit questionable when it comes to crewless vessels. We are also increasingly moving to an area now where we're going to be talking of the traditional piracy, the one that we're talking about, almost overlapping with cyber piracy. And in fact, the draft MAS code does actually talk of cybersecurity. So we will have to really be more expert at approaching cybersecurity as a piece and parcel of the good old crime of maritime piracy. So it's just a play of words. When I was doing my doctoral studies, I was trying to avoid any sense of piracy in the form of copyright piracy. But today, I think we can't avoid cybersecurity and cyber piracy when talking of real piracy. So it's just a semantical exercise. And the last 2 points I have for you is, I think we're doing well on time. Excellent. Yes. How in relation to the analogies, are we able to draw analogies between MAS and drones? Why I keep coming back to drones? I think because the frequent use and the popular use in warfare, which is an environment that is rife with security issues, I submit to you that we should be, using examples from real life, and drones, I think, provide a good fallback for those difficult questions that we're trying to answer. And as I said, the last point is the new provisions of the draft code. So when I'm referring here to chapter 22, that has quite a few provisions that tried, and the title of it is Special Measures to Enhance Maritime Security. Generally speaking, don't expect much of the legislation coming out of the IMO or even a national at the national level. I looked at the UK industry code of conduct for MAS also. It kind of signals or flags piracy, but it doesn't really address it, because I think it's considered as a far-fetched question still. So it's understandable. We're trying to deal with, as you heard from the eloquent speakers, we're trying to deal with more basic questions before we move to these minute issues. The special measures to enhance maritime security, that mirrors really the title of a chapter in the SOLAS itself, which is the one that chapeaus or the chapeau of the ISPS code. It does mention security, although it doesn't define security, and no one was expecting that to be defined, because it's not even defined in the SOLAS which is the mother convention. It somehow attributes certain responsibilities to the ROC, which I think is in following the trend that is present elsewhere in this draft code. But it also harks back to what we heard earlier. Is there going to be some kind of a personality for MAS or even ROCs? That's a question that should be resolved. And I think I can end it there, sir. Thank you very much.